Well, hi everyone. Welcome. I'm Bruno. I'm VP of Product at Metabase, and excited to be with everyone here today. We're excited to talk about actions, right? Like have some cool stuff to share. Before we start, just wanted to say, like, as questions come up along the way, or maybe questions that you already have even before we start, please put them in the little questions tab in Livestorm here, so we can collect them, and we're gonna do our best to go through everything towards the end. And that's kind of the key thing. So hey Alex, hey Sandra, Jan, hi. The plan for today is like Ryan here is gonna demo some cool stuff that he's built internally using actions. Then Moz is gonna walk you through everything, or the basics of how to set up actions and whatnot. And then we go deeper into some more advanced stuff towards the end, and then go to Q&A. Cool. So yeah, I can follow Margaret's instructions here to introduce yourself, say what you're looking for from the event, and we'll go from there. So I'll let these guys who have some cool stuff here. So Ryan, he's our chief game designer at Metabase, is also a front end engineer, and has something cool to share. Ryan, please take it away.
Hey everyone. Yeah, excited to show you some fun stuff with actions here. I had the privilege of helping develop this feature, and along the way, I got to build some cool stuff, experimenting with what's possible with actions. So here I've got my local Metabase instance, and I have this Pokemon Stadium dashboard. My kids and I have been playing a lot of Pokemon lately. So here I built this dashboard in case in the course of my work I was, wondering how any given Pokemon would perform against one another. So let's use our little filters here, and we'll pull out Blastoise, a fan favorite, and we'll put him against another classic Charizard. Um, and so you can see I've got a couple new Metabase features here in dashboards. We have these detail visualizations so we can see all their stats. But really, I want to do some math under the hood to figure out who's going to win. And I can use my new action button to battle them, which will insert a new record into my database and record that Blastoise won. So I can use another action button to reset the battle. We could do, let's maybe do Slowpoke, and we'll put Slowpoke up against maybe Bulbasaur, another favorite. And we can, view their stats and give them a battle. So yeah, cool things possible with actions. We've built a few more games internally that I think we've shared out on social media. Really exciting to see all the things that people will be building with this. But for now, I think we'll jump into some of the details of this later. But Maz will walk us through kind of the step by step. How do we use actions? How do we build this?
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Well, yeah, for all of you in the audience, don't be intimidated. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was Pokemon Stadium. So I'm going to show you some of the building blocks for how you can create some operational dashboards or experiences for internal or external purposes yourself. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, and then we'll get going. All right. So what I want to do first is just describe a little bit about how we think about actions in Metabase, how you make them, how they're organized. So fundamentally, actions right now in Metabase are parameterizable SQL, and they're associated with models in Metabase. So if you're not familiar with models yet in Metabase, they're a really powerful and fundamental new building block that we added somewhere around a year ago into the product. And effectively, they're what you might imagine. They're kind of custom views of your data that can be based off of a query or off of a table that already exists in your database. So what we're going to do is I'm going to be creating a model that kind of represents some customer accounts, some imaginary customer accounts. And we're kind of going to build an operational database, or maybe kind of like almost a little internal tool that'll help us to manage our accounts. So first things first, we're going to go over here and create a new model. I'm going to use our graphical notebook editor, and I'm just going to base this model off of the sample accounts table that comes prepackaged in Metabase. And just so you can get a peek at this information, it's what you kind of would imagine. It's some imaginary customer information. But one thing that we want to pay attention to is it has this column here called trial converted. So that way we can kind of know whether our customers who are in trial have become paying customers or not. And I'm just calling this out because we're going to end up having an action that's going to allow us to change this dynamically. So let's go ahead and save this model. We'll call this accounts model, very original. And I'm going to save this over here inside of this collection, like so. And so now we've got this model. We're going to start creating some actions associated with it. So to do that, we're going to go over here into our model details page. And one thing I kind of neglected to mention is that before you can create actions, before you see this tab show up, you're going to need to go into your admin panel and into the database configuration page, where you set up the connection information for the database that you want to enable actions for. It's a simple little toggle. It's just an on-off. And I'm just not going to show it to you today because I don't want to show all of our connection information on screen. But in any case, that's how you kind of enable actions. So now we're back here in the accounts model detail view, and we're going to go over to this actions tab over here. And so right away, you're going to see two different buttons. One of them is this one that says create basic actions. And then this is just the general new action button that allows you to write whatever parameterized SQL you'd like. Let me show you basic actions first because they're actually quite powerful. I think they're pretty cool. So we're just going to click this, and Metabase is going to automatically create for me some kind of CRUD actions to create a new record, edit or update an existing one, or to delete a particular record. And the way that this works for now is that your model is going to need to be a one-to-one representation of a particular singular table in your database. So that's just part of the first iteration of this feature. Eventually, I imagine that we'll be extending this so that won't be a limitation. But that's what you'll need to do right now in order to enable these basic actions. Other actions, that's not the case, but for basic actions, that's what you'll need to do. And so they do what you would imagine. You can click on this button and it'll actually run the SQL to create a new record in this actual table inside of your actual database. So please do take care before messing around with these actions. Running this delete action, if I specify a particular ID, will actually delete that record for real on disk. So please do take care. Then that's basic actions. Let's talk about custom actions over here. So when you click this modal, you get the sort of SQL editor. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a query that I've already written and paste it in here. And this is just going to be a really constrained update or edit action. And what I want it to do is I want it to be very, kind of dummy proof, right? I want it to be a very simple action that anyone can use to just edit one little attribute of a particular record. And so that they don't have to, modify every single column or see every single column in the record. And so what I've done is I've exposed two parameters via the same kind of SQL variable syntax that you may already be familiar with. And so over here, then I'm getting a preview of how my parameters are going to appear to my users, provided that they're the kind of parameter that requires their input. And you'll kind of see what I mean in a minute. Parameters aren't always going to require actual direct user input. So in any case, I'm going to put this ID up at the top. And then over here for the trial status parameter, I'm going to modify this a little bit. I don't want to have my users just see this blank input box. Instead, being the designer that I am, I'd like to go ahead and provide them with a nicer experience. So I want this to actually be an inline select. And I'm then going to now curate what values are available for them. So then these are just going to be Booleans, false and true, so that we can say whether or not this particular account is converted yet or not. And that should be everything I need to do for this action. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to call this one update trial status. Looks like I have done this before. And I'm going to save this notably in the accounts model itself. It doesn't go into a collection. As I mentioned before, this is an action gets saved into the model that it affects. Let's go ahead and create that. Now you can see the visual sort of distinction between this custom action I've built and these basic ones. Incidentally, if I ever decide that I've created all the actions that I want in a very bespoke way, I can always turn off or disable basic actions like that. Cool. So this is kind of neat already. I hope you think it's neat. I think it's neat, but it's a little limited to feel like I have to go over here into this model detail view to run these actions. That's not the experience I want. And thankfully, it's not the experience that I'm limited to. Where these actions really become powerful is when we use them in conjunction with buttons and actions on a dashboard. So let's go do that. I'm going to go ahead and create a new dashboard, and we'll call this like accounts. Let's name it something better, accounts management. And we'll save that over here in our actions demo right here. And then we're going to go ahead and add our accounts model directly to this dashboard, like so. So now we can actually see the actions themselves take effect. So we'll go ahead and save this. And the next thing I'm actually going to do is the same thing that Ryan was showing us, which is our new detail view visualization is actually going to become kind of nice in this case, I think. So we'll go over here to our accounts model itself, and I'm going to visualize this as a detail. What this does is it's going to just show me one record at a time. And if my results, my query results has more than one record, it's going to give me some pagination controls. So I'll go ahead and save this as account detail. So, and I'll save that in the same collection. And then I am going to add this to that same dashboard that I have. Like this. We can close this other tab. We don't need that anymore. And let's put these side by side. Now I can see a single record at a time along with the full list of all of my accounts. Let's move this like so. Great. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to start adding some buttons. First things first, though, I'm actually going to add a little ID filter widget here, and you'll see why that's going to become powerful and important in a moment. So we're going to edit this dashboard, add a little filter like so, and we'll wire this up to the ID column that's present in both of these questions like that. And the main reason why we're doing this is because you're going to find out that the buttons, the actions that we add, can receive a parameter value from these dashboard widgets. So if I select a particular ID for a given account, then we can pre-populate our action, the edit, delete, or update one. I guess update and edit are the same thing, with the value of that ID so that we don't have to manually type it in, because who wants to do that? So let's go over here and now add some buttons. So let's start off by just a very basic one. How about a create button? Create account. Now, incidentally, choose a style for the button too. And then what I have to do to wire these buttons up is I'm going to go over here and then pick the action that I want it to run when the button is clicked. So in this case, it's a create action. And then I'll place that up here, maybe at the top above everything else. And then let's add another one. This one, let's call this one like edit count. This will be like a secondary kind of action. And we'll pick the action to run. And this one is going to be the update. And we're going to, like I said, wire this up so it's going to receive the ID value from the dashboard widget. And we'll put that over here. And we'll do the same exact thing for our delete button. Delete. Danger. And that will be associated with the delete action. And we'll get that from the ID parameter also. Cool. Pretty great. And then lastly, we're going to add our custom button. So this one is going to be called update trial status, like convert. We'll call it this, whatever. I'm not going to overthink this. And then we'll associate this with our custom action, update trial status. And then this one also, we're going to get this ID from the widget. And we'll put this one up here too. That's the opposite of what I wanted to do. Great. And with a little bit of final tweaking, this is starting to look like a nice little app, isn't it? So let's go ahead and save this. And I'll just show you some of this live. How about we do something real simple here? Like let's actually delete an account. I'm going to delete this first one. I'm going to give it the ID of 1, and let's just delete it. It looks like I've done something wrong here, so we'll move on to another action. One thing I just realized too is I wanted to show you how, rather than having to manually enter a particular ID to filter everything out like so, you can actually make this even nicer by using this in conjunction with custom actions in Metabase. Excuse me, I mean custom click behavior. So if I go over here to my table, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire this up so that the ID column here is going to actually change the ID that's present here in my widget. So let's go over here and do this custom click behavior. And we'll connect, again, the ID, the ID column so that it'll update this dashboard filter with the value that I click on. That's a mouthful, so let me show you what this actually does. Let's say that I want to filter down to like record number 4 here. If I click on this 4, my filter gets that value, and now my account detail record over here is filtered down to that record nicely. So let's try our custom action and see if we have better luck with this one. So if I update my trial status, notice that already the value of the ID that I want to affect has been pre-populated for this action, so the user isn't asked to give the ID. It knows that it's acting on that record. And let's see, record number 4, what was their conversion status? Trial converted false. So let's say we want to convert them over from somebody who's in trial to somebody who has been converted. So we'll update the trial status to true and run it. Check it out. They are now a converted user. So hopefully this is giving you some ideas for how you might use both basic and custom actions in conjunction with some of these new building blocks that we have in dashboards in Metabase. One thing I didn't even show you is we've added in a new link kind of card widget that you can add to your dashboards to make them feel even more app-like. These links can be linked to other URLs outside of Metabase or to specific objects like dashboards, cards, or models that you've created in Metabase as well. So let me show you one last little use case for this. This is kind of a very neat little internal kind of application that you could build for operational purposes. But you can also do some kind of fun things too with public actions. So let me show you what I mean. Over here, I've built this dashboard where we're going to take a little survey. And I am aggregating this other model I have, this survey model I've created, and turning it into a simple bar chart, counting all the responses broken out by which meal people like the most. And the way that I did this is I created this model over here that has an action that is just a simple insert into. So it's just creating a new record. But what I did over here in my settings was I toggled on this make public setting right here. That generates a publicly accessible URL. You don't have to have a Metabase account to use this. That then allows people to respond to like my survey. This could be used for all kinds of things. We're using it internally at Metabase to implement sort of like an access request form to different applications or services. And this is what it looks like. You kind of get a little form for free just based on the parameters that you've exposed in the action. So I'm actually going to share this URL with you live. No need to try to copy it yourself. Let me go ahead and paste this in the chat. And I would love if everybody would go ahead and just tell me what meal do you think is best? And I'm going to, as you kind of go ahead and put your name and your choice in, I'll just periodically refresh this bar chart and I'll just give it a few seconds just to see what responses come in. Look at that. Bruno Burrito Burger. I can vouch for that. That's true. All right. How about I wait maybe 10 more seconds and then we'll see. We'll do a drum roll and a big reveal. It looks like brunch is out in front though with 4 responses. All right, here's the countdown. 10, 9, 8,
If you can
7.
give it a second. I think like there are lots of people going at the same time. Like we've built some basic throttling into this, so it doesn't overtake your Metabase instance. This session is just too popular. So
Thanks,
just give it a couple of seconds and we'll get people insight into their food preferences.
While people are responding, I'll just give my little brunch anecdote, which is that my favorite brunch spot down the street after 10 years closed down. That just shouldn't be legal, should it? Great brunch places are just hard to find. All right. Are people still filling things out, Bruno?
Looks like
Well, here, let's just see partial results. All right.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3. Drum roll, please. Oh, look at that nice little distribution. Brunch. I might have padded these results with some test results here, but midnight snack. I love you, whoever this is. Incidentally, I could look this up, right? This has all the same drill through capabilities that Metabase comes, built with, so we can actually look and see who our responders were. And you'll also notice, some little niceties like an auto timestamp being inserted. Anyway, I hope you had fun. Thanks for voting on which meal is best. Clearly, brunch is superior, as we all knew. With that demo being over, I will pass the microphone back over to Ryan, who's going to show us a little bit about how he went about building what you saw earlier in the demo.
Hey, thanks, Moz. Let me go back to sharing my screen here. So yeah, like Moz says, our basic actions are super powerful for basic create, update, delete sorts of actions that are probably going to be most of what you want to do. But if you want to leverage the full power of SQL and reference multiple tables and do some real calculations, that is totally possible with actions too. So back here, what we're doing, let me give you
Actually, Ryan, if you don't mind, we had like very specific requests for certain Pokemon.
Oh.
So yeah, Swampert and Pikachu, which is the one that I knew. So we should do that. That's the biggest one, right? Yeah.
Wait, what was that first Pokemon?
Swampert, SWAM.
There we go. And
Pikachu.
Pikachu, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not familiar with Swampert, but apparently Pikachu is winning. So yeah, how do we figure out who wins? We're not doing a full modeling of everything here, but there is enough logic in here, I think, to be interested. So if we scroll down here, we can actually use another new Metabase 46 feature. We have links, so we can link straight to our Pokédex model. We will go into our model details and look at our actions. So here's our battle Pokemon action, which many people watching today are probably better SQL writers than I am. But for those of you who don't know and don't have a child to explain to you how Pokemon battles work, the biggest factor in whether one Pokemon will beat another is its type. A lot of these make sense. A fire type Pokemon will beat a grass type Pokemon most of the time because fire burns grass. On the other hand, a water type Pokemon is going to beat a fire type Pokemon because water puts out fire, things like that. And we can model that with data, actually. I have another model here that is Pokemon type modifiers. So you can see I've got this big model that has every permutation of every type that can battle one another, and there are type modifiers. So you can see that if a fire type Pokemon attacks a dragon type Pokemon, its attacks are going to be at half effectiveness. But on the other hand, if a flying type Pokemon attacks a grass type Pokemon, its attacks are going to be twice as effective. So we can leverage that in. We can use our parameterized SQL here with the Pokemon 1 and Pokemon 2 that we hook up to our dashboard filters. We can look up their types, match them up to the attacking and defending types in a secondary table. And then the other relevant field here is total. Each Pokemon has a number of stats: attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and which are all summed up in a total. So if we take their total multiplied by their type modifier, we get, I think, a pretty reasonable proxy of who's going to win. So we can do this real complex SQL. So we're doing a select, and then we're inserting the winner into a separate table, Pokemon battles, limiting it to one, and then we cache that result. You could even do more complex things like this. You could keep a log of all of the Pokemon battles people have fought on your instance, and do some analysis on who's the most popular in your company. There's just a lot of possibilities when you can do a lot. Currently, my reset battle just simply truncates my Pokemon battles table. I don't recommend putting that action public if if that's data you want to keep it all. So yeah, back to real quick the Pokemon Stadium. Now that you've seen what's under the hood of these action buttons, it's really just a simple, well, maybe not perfectly simple, but like Maz showed you, we've got our filters for team 1 and team 2, all connected up to our text cards. We have our actions here. We can edit our actions with this little action setting. And then we can see that we linked up the parameters in our action to our team 1 and team 2 filters. And that's really kind of all it takes to get these hooked up. The only other little bit of magic is using markdown cards to pull in the data from our dashboard filters, and you have a pretty reasonable simulation of how to battle Pokemon, all in SQL. But yeah, that's all I have here. I think I'll pass it back to Bruno.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. This is awesome. Ryan has built the Pokemon Stadium. He's also built a battleship game that we can run in our internal instance. And there's even a multiplayer running game that's being developed with Unreal graphics within Metabase. But I think like the Pokemon Stadium example is the different types of powers and how they interact and how that is encoded in a different table. It's such a cool example of how you can use data itself to actually have code-like behavior as you're working with actions. That I think is like really, really cool. Cool. I want to let's go through questions now. I think folks asked a bunch of questions here, and please, as we go, continue to add more there. So I think there's a few questions. Let's try. I'll try to go like from the bottom up in terms of how it works. So this is not an enterprise feature. This is available on Metabase, open source, and starter, and all tiers of the product. So it's available for everyone to use. And permissions wise, we're starting with something very basic. There's a global toggle that you can turn this on. So recommend using this in a very controlled environment, or maybe a separate instance as you're playing with this. As we go forward, we're going to develop like further, more fine-grained controls for permissions, so we can use the existing Metabase group mapping functionality to control who can run actions and eventually who can run what actions. You can build like fairly complicated or complex applications with that. And along those, like around the same time, which I think something we'll be targeting around like release 48, we'll build an action log. So like William is asking about like a good way for keeping a record of which user ran what action. Right now, we don't have the functionality out of the box. It's absolutely in our radar and something that we want to do. I think you can build your own on your database using triggers, and there's some other mechanisms that you can do. You can parse logs. For now, it's not something that is yet available within the product. We're definitely going to get there. There's a few questions about database support. So we launched with support for Postgres, MySQL, and MariaDB. Over the course of the next release or two, we're going to expand that support, bound to include Mongo, Redshift, Snowflake, BigQuery, some of our most popular databases in the next release, and we're going to continue to extend this along the way. If you want support for this, please file or upvote GitHub issues on our GitHub repo. We absolutely use those quite a bit to prioritize this kind of work. what else? Actually, I think so Rob asked, like, you asked, like, does the credibility depend on some sort of account permissions? I think that, as I mentioned, right now it's a very simple permissions model. You need the user that is configured to connect to the database naturally needs to have the privileges to modify data. And then once you enable that, the entire set of action functionality is available to folks there. We have some good documentation clarifying all that stuff. Let me go through let me sort these by upvotes. Okay, I'm learning this app now. Cool. Actions should be available on embedded dashboards. Very much if you use full app embedding, this is naturally all available there if you want to use it. And it should also work for sign embedding there. And you also have the possibility of doing public actions like forms, as Moz demoed with the branch survey there. Cool. Jan, yeah, like nice. Jan wants to know like where we're heading strategically with this, like growing out of BI, like what is the direction that this is supposed to go. So actions, I think the ability to write back to the databases and just act on the data is something that has come up over the years quite a bit, very organically, because we see folks like you use Metabase in a very operational context, right? It's, yes, we absolutely use Metabase for aggregating data and doing analysis at like large amounts of data, but also seeing individual customers or products or whatever it is in a very operational context, and seeing that information and having to go somewhere else to act on it, to update an address, to change a conversion status, to issue a refund, is something that like we seemed very interesting for us to solve. So we absolutely want to grow this on this space, very much focused on internal use cases, at least for a good while, but absolutely want to use the power of SQL and the types of like data constructs that Ryan demoed today for you to build like internal tools in a really powerful way. So it's very, very much something that we want to do more. Cool. I think actually something that like I think is worth talking about, like complementing that, just like share a little bit of how we're thinking about what happens with actions from now on. We just launched it in release 46, and right now we're focused on improving the core building blocks. Right, we're using this internally a lot, and we want to get things right before we grow the surface area too much. So we're working on making the overall action creation and use experience much better, like defining the UI widgets and mapping parameters and things like that. Like it's getting a lot better as we progress. We're bringing smart parameters, like so you can use properties of the user who's engaging with the action or the instance timestamp and things like that. So you can bring those into the action values, and improving basic action customizability, because there's a lot of powerful powers that we can see happening there. New things that we're bringing in, like the ability to chain actions together, to trigger actions from alerts. So you can schedule an alert and then run an action from the results from there, and have actions should send emails. So you can actually start to build some more complex workflows, which we're excited to see. And we're also like working on simplifying a lot of the basics of creating a CRUD app, like insert table, interacting with each row and things like that. So making some good progress there. And we're also figuring out like how to make it easy for you to create the tables that allow you to build these applications. Like if you don't have them already for creating a survey, how you can very quickly create a table to store the survey results and things like that. So just a lot of what we're currently working on. Coming back to the questions, John was asking about ensuring security when using actions. As I mentioned, right now we have a simple permissions model, so you shouldn't expose this for people who should not be using this. But as we progress, we're going to give you more fine-grained control over who can do what. The main way for you to control that now is through the dashboards that you expose people to. Cool. Let me see. try to focus on actions first, and then can go to the Metabot. I think we covered. Dave, yeah, Dave is asking if you can use this functionality with stored procedures. I'm pretty sure you can. There's a lot of power in having the direct SQL access that there. I can't answer with like complete conviction right now, but like if you try it out, I think it's bound to work.
I can answer. I've done a little bit of game development using some triggers and stored functions that enables a lot of really advanced functionality. So you can make a simple change in a database and have that trigger a lot more complex functionality.
Awesome. Also, Dave is asking if you can control which database the data is written to. Yes, absolutely. Like you define the every action has to be bound to a database the same way that SQL queries or GUI queries are bound to specific databases. So very much so. Cool. See if there are new ones popping up there. Well, Deepak is asking about the Metabot, the new AI assistant that we shipped a preview for a couple weeks ago as well. If it's only for models or if you can expect it for index data as well. Right now, it's, well, we have a strong bias towards making work mostly with models and defined entities in Metabase, mainly because we don't want people making wrong decisions, right? Like the bot can return correct or valid SQL that is incorrect business-wise, and the logic and the constraints that you have embedded in the models and in the upcoming metrics that we're working on are really like one of the main ways that we want to make sure that we only return things that people can actually trust. So we have a strong bias towards that, but it's something that we're still exploring. It's early, and we absolutely want more feedback on how people are using. Yeah. Anything I missed in the chat, if moderators can also help me. Cool. Cool. I think we're covering a ton there. Like if you've missed it, let me repost this. If you can complete this really short survey, I just posted in the chat to tell us about how this event went for you. It would be super super helpful. Like we eat feedback for breakfast at Metabase, so anything we can get like goes a long way. Yeah, and Maxime is asking if I have a lot of data entry fields, if it's possible to expand the input form horizontally. This type of like form customization is something that like we don't have much in the first version, but we will definitely, we're working on improving all of that as we go forward. Yeah. Yes, there will be a recording for this that we'll share as soon as possible, so you can watch it again, share with all of your friends and family if you can, so they can all learn about actions. Yeah, any more questions people may have? If you want to add a couple more, I think we covered a lot of ground today.
I see one from John asking, what's the best way to give feedback on new features?
Yeah, absolutely. So very much on Discourse, on GitHub. We always, we read every single entry there. If you're a paid customer, also email the success team. Like we're really, really looking forward for feedback. We want to learn the types of ways that you're using and trying to use actions for today, so we can continue to improve it. Yeah. Cool. All right. So yeah, thanks everyone. Thank you very much, Moaz, Ryan, for the awesome demos, and thanks for everyone who attended and who's watching later. Please send us your feedback again on GitHub, Discourse, and through our success team. Really, really looking forward to hear what you make with this. Cool. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.